Welcome along to our special edition of a podcast or something or other by the cricketer. We're looking at the Bob Willis Trophy, first class cricket from the ECB, which is here just for one season only, we hope, in the age of COVID. We've got a bit of a show lined up for you, albeit streamed via Zoom, so please excuse the dodgy lighting, slightly tacky camera work, and the fact that I'm wearing 3 different t-shirts over the course the next hour and a bit. Joining me is Nick Friend. Nick, are you looking forward to a bit of first class cricket after such a long wait?
Yeah, yes, I am. I don't really know what else to say to that. Yeah, very much so. We've all waited long enough, haven't we? It'd be quite nice to have. It's been lovely to have the international stuff back, obviously, but I guess this is the bread and butter, isn't it? And sort of what gets us from point A to point B at the start of the summer and the end of the summer. So this is what we'd start with in April and end with it. Last finals day and the last day of the championship in late September. So yeah, lovely to have it back, even if it's just in a very, very truncated sort of makeshift form. But God, it'll feel anything but that come the weekend, when it'll feel like the greatest cricket you've ever seen, because we've been waiting for so long. So yeah, absolutely, very, very excited for it, and yeah, very pleased for a lot of people that it's got to this point. Not just us, but players, ECB, counties, members, everyone in the industry, backmakers, ball makers, who've had a significant portion of their revenues or just livelihoods just sort of ripped away from them the last few months. So yeah, absolutely, and yeah, from a selfish point of view, it's been really nice to watch some live cricket.
Yes, I think most of all it's applicable to digital cricket journalists. Well played to everybody out there who falls into that category. It's obviously not the most important, but I'm trying to run a cricket website publication for 4 months without any cricket, and getting people to come and visit your website or buy your publication is a quite difficult task. So we're very glad that we're through that. We're very thankful to everyone who's stopped on by over the course of 4 months, where all we were providing were some really quite naff video game streaming and some quizzes. And of course, Nick would slap me if I don't mention his 45 plus in-depth features, some of at least 10,000 words. I think they count as novellas. But there've been plenty from you, Nick. I shouldn't downplay you too much. I shouldn't downplay, but at the same time, you want to be writing about cricket that's taking place here and now. If anything, it makes life a little bit easier, doesn't
it? Yeah, I guess we'll find out, won't we? It's funny, like, yes, it's live cricket, but it's still pretty unprecedented, isn't it? I can't remember the last time we had essentially 4 straight weeks of Saturday starts with what is effectively county championship cricket, even if it's not. Obviously the regionalised stuff as well, and a lot happening in a very short space of time. Effectively, there's going to be cricket, on virtually every day, which sounds ridiculous. It sounds ridiculous for that to sound like a treat, but in this summer it is, isn't it? Having gone so long without it, so yeah, there'll still be a lot of teething, I think, and I'm not talking about us here, and I think just in the general sort of cricket industry, once this all gets going. And fair play to cricket, it's got itself up and running a lot more civilly, a lot more easily than I think any other sport going.
So I guess we should get on with what we've got in store, Nick. Sorry to cut you off there. I think that might be a bit of a dodgy edit of me cutting out where the internet went down. But we've got 3 segments of this show, as we're trying to call it. We're going to start with some players. We've got Mason Crane, Ryan Higgins and Ethan Bamber. Then we're on to some journalists. Kevin Howells and Mark Church are with us to talk about their experiences behind closed doors, cricket so far, and what they expect from this season. And we'll finish it off with a long and I think quite interesting conversation with SEAN Jarvis, the Chief Executive of Leicestershire, about the challenges facing county cricket as we go ahead. Nick joins me for the guys in the players segment, and then he disappears into the ether as I swap uniforms and then swap uniforms again. More quick changes than a Super Bowl halftime show, not quite as much malfunction. So Nick, thank you for joining me, and thank you for helping us get through the 4 months leading up to some county cricket. hopefully we can all enjoy it together now. But let's sit back and listen to what the guys who are going to be playing had to say. Right, so this is our players segment of our Bob Willis Trophy preview podcast, and it's great that we've got three guys from three different counties here to have a chat. Mason Crane at Hampshire, Ryan Higgins at Gloucester, Ethan Bamber at Middlesex. Guys, how are you? Anyone can say hello first. I don't mind you.
Good, thanks. Yeah.
I'm all good, thank you.
Yeah, all good, all good.
So you guys have all experienced a very different kind of very long pre-season, some of which has been spent on furlough, some of which has been spent doing some strength and conditioning, some of which has finally been spent playing a bit of cricket. With you at Hampshire, what's the experience been like in the run-up to the Red Bull season, particularly the time which you weren't being able to do proper training?
I think it's obviously at the start it was initially really strange for everyone, but what I would say is everyone's adapted pretty well, and after a week or two it kind of felt pretty normal and you're pretty used to it. Obviously before we came back not much could be done really, and it was quite nice to have a bit of a break, but yeah, we've sort of started off in small groups and eased our way into it, and yeah, it's been novel, I guess. I hope it's the last time we have to do this, but yeah, once we've got going, it's actually felt okay.
Ryan, what about Gloucester? How have things gone down there?
Yeah, it's been obviously strange not training for quite long. Gloucester were quite strict on sort of all the rules and stuff, so yeah, the training wasn't happening during lockdown, which was tough. But yeah, I think pretty similar. Like once we got back into it, it was weirdly all right. Sort of kind of half expected to forget how to hit a ball and you know, bowl a ball, but yeah, it's got better. You know, I think everyone's got those competitive juices flowing again, and that's quite enjoyable. Yeah.
Nick, what do you want to ask guys? What are you most interested in about what's been going on in pre-season?
I've sort of I've done this bit to Ryan already, to be fair, but no, I mean, Mason, like from your perspective, obviously if you'd start a Red Bull season normally, like you wouldn't be all that involved come April or May kind of thing. I mean, what's it like for you starting a Red Bull campaign in August? I mean, obviously just sort of surfaces wise, conditions and stuff like that, and yeah, I mean, does it sort of bring you into the game a bit more?
Yeah, no, it's obviously very different because, like you said, normally everyone pre-seasons, and I kind of give myself a couple more weeks after it, thinking that I'm not really going to be involved and I'm just going to be carrying drinks. So it's nice to be heavily involved. It's nice to be, you know, in and around the guys, and obviously practice games, not just being given a few token overs and stuff. So no, it's been nice, and finally we got some championship games in August, which hasn't happened for quite a while. I don't think so. Yeah, hopefully it stays dry and get a good long bowl. Given that
Liam Dawson may well spend some time with the England side, and there's no Nathan Lyon, me frontline spinner this year, and that must be a good opportunity, particularly after some of the injury issues that you've had over the last couple of years. Yeah, no, it's strange how it's worked out. I was very much prepared coming into this year that I wasn't really going to be playing much Red Bull. Like I said, Dawson, Lyon, and I was very much number 3. And then, yeah, circumstances have it that looks like I may play a fair amount of it. So, no, I'm looking forward to it, and it's nice to be fit again, and it's nice to be fully fit. And you know, I had a really good winter of cricket as well leading into this. So it's a shame that I didn't get to build on that straight away, but you know, I'm still fit, so I'm excited to get going.
Ryan, I mean, for people that can't be asked to read 20 minutes of of rambles, what's it been like from a Gloucester point? Obviously coming up this year and what was meant to be of this season. I mean, obviously bringing in George Scott over the winter and having sort of a pretty settled side. I mean, how do you see the rotation side of it going? I mean, do you see I guess the all-rounders almost being more important if we're going to try not to run seamers into the ground and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think, as you know, actually speaking about the spinners, to be fair, I think the spinners are going to be really important. And yeah, the all-rounders as well. But like making sure that bowlers are just honest, I think that's been that's been the massive chats within our group, is just being honest with how you're feeling and how your body's feeling, and not letting yourself get to a point where you can't play games. So yeah, there might be the odd niggle, but making sure that, you know, you're not getting injured to a point where you can't play games. And to be fair, we played the game today. A couple of spinners were bowling sort of at the end of the game, as Mason said, the sort of token overs. But actually, first time at Bristol, it's actually spun. It was incredible today. So, you know, July, August, we don't really play games, red ball games at Bristol. And yeah, they were turning. So it was quite nice to see that as well. Because, yeah, you know, as you say, it seems it could be an interesting sort of few weeks with 5 Champo games.
New ball now not until 90 overs, and you can only bat 120. Is all pointing towards spinners doing the business here. But as a team, do you feel that it's going to make a huge amount of difference, these regulations, or are they just a sort of tweak to try and do what you can within a limited frame to help with the overloaders?
Yeah, I think the 90 overs is going to be really tough for the new ball, mainly because there's only 90 overs in a day. So if you do end up, say you bowl first day 1, a lot of times what happens in Championship cricket, I find, is that you sort of get rewarded at the back end of days sometimes. So you put in a lot of hard work, and if you know, you get a second crack at it with the new ball at the back end of the day, I think that's going to change massively now. It's going to be very limited what you can do as a seamer at the end of the day. So it might be trying to get to a point where you're actually containing the game. You know, obviously you only have to bowl 120 overs, so you're trying to contain the game and not go for runs basically in that period, waiting for that new rock that you get.
That was a terrifying moment, wasn't it? You were on my screen. You were flanked by 2 Ethan Bambers for a bit.
Sorry.
It's all right.
Ethan, are you with us?
I hope so.
Are you here?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Got a question for you.
Okay. Sorry about
sort of 2-pronged. A Radlett, obviously playing home games there and not. Oh, hang on, he's gone.
This is going really well, guys.
Ryan, you've played at Radlett, haven't you?
Look, if you want to talk about Radlett, I've played 100 games there.
I was going to say, between the two of you, obviously outground stuff, not just Radlett, but also Liverpool, a couple others as well. How does that change things just generally with the outgrounds, and I guess surfaces and that kind of stuff, and also obviously the toss rule. Well, the toss is back in, isn't it? So presumably, whereas I mean, Ethan, like if you were playing a game at Lords the last couple of years, you could turn up at lunch and you wouldn't have anything to do, would you? So like with the toss back in, yeah, I mean, how big a difference is that?
I've been strapping my pads on, but yeah. Yeah, I think. I mean, Radlett particularly is quite unique in that it's like incredibly fast scoring, and I think we've spoken about as a group trying to use that to our advantage, and really because it's got some quite funky angles and stuff. And if we have the benefit of being able to understand those, then you never know in these tight games where like spin, as the lads have spoken about, is going to play a massive part, and things like that. If you can turn overs that goes for 4 into overs that go for 2 just by understanding the nature of the field better and stuff, then I think definitely we see that as a point for advantage. It'll be a shame because Radlett's really nice if you can get a crowd in and stuff, so I think it will be a bit different there. But the wickets we played on so far have been really good. We played it in squad game there the other week, and it was really good contest. So
we're on tenterhooks to figure out what the last part of that.
And it does always spin.
What with what you mentioned there about the crowds? If the games at the outgrounds, are they going to feel sort of properly like club games. You know what I mean? Like obviously, at least if you're playing at Lords, you're surrounded by what looks like a stadium. But I mean, having played around it myself, I mean, it is a club ground, isn't it? And you put the chairs out when Middlesex comes to town.
Yeah, I think there may be an element of that at the start, but then as Ryan mentioned earlier, like you're there to.
Oh, you need to change your network provider. I think the point, yeah, anyone apart from whatever he's on. And the point also passes over though to Mason, because you're going to be bowling at Arundel, and I mean, how much experience do you have of playing there as a leggy, and how much do you have to learn as a team to adapt to somewhere like that?
Well, personally, I've played at Arundel quite a lot. I'd have played a lot of club games there, a lot of club finals there. So I think of all the guys we've been training there and stuff, but of everyone, I'm the one probably most familiar with the ground, and most of my parents only live about 10 minutes away from it. So it's exciting. It's a really nice ground, and we're looking forward to that. The circumstances have it, we have to be away, and I guess they're a home game, but it's still going to feel like an away game. But like you were saying earlier about how it's going to feel, you'd hope once you're out there it would just feel like a first-class game, because the standard's going to be high. Everyone's going to be obviously up for it. Take out the crowd, but hopefully the cricket's not too dissimilar.
Do you guys think that it is going to be of that level? I was speaking to a couple of journos earlier, and they were saying, well, the trophy's named after one of England's greatest players, so you're playing in the name of someone who's achieved a huge amount for the game. Will the standard be as high and the intensity be as high, Ryan, as you were if you were playing in a county championship game and playing for a title or playing for promotion?
Yeah, I mean, I think it will be. I think it might even be maybe not a higher standard, but I think guys have only got 5 games, so I think it's definitely going to be very competitive, and guys are going to run in hard with the ball. I think some of the bigger counties obviously are going to have probably a few more seamers to be able to run in hard. So that'll be interesting to see how the quick bowlers cope and stuff like that. But yeah, I think competitively everyone wants to do well all the time. And yeah, I don't think the standard's going to be much different.
What but I guess to any of you, I mean, have you discussed declarations and stuff? I mean, obviously you've got 5 games and a final at the end of it. I mean, I guess wins are going to be goes without saying, wins are going to be pretty important. Like if you can turn a draw into a win by being slightly creative at the end of day 2 or something. I mean, has that been discussed at all? How you sort of go about winning games when in a normal year, if you draw 7 and win 4, you probably do pretty well?
I wouldn't say it's quite at that point, because it's still obviously 4 days, and if you look at Championship cricket, not many of the games go 4 days. Not many of the first innings go past 120 overs. But what you might see is on day 4, teams, they may just go for wins when normally they'd go for a draw or try and force the result. But I think the first few days of games, I think it'll be normal cricket, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I guess Ryan, you are the batter among the 3. We talked a bit about bowling. I mean, what's it like mindset-wise to go from having not played at all, and obviously having thought presumably a lot about having a long bat? What's it like how easy is it going to be for guys to switch on and bat long periods of time, having not?
Yeah, no, good question. This week sort of was an interesting one in sort of showing that. I think just on this week, from what I've seen, really, we had guys sort of going in and making little mistakes where I suppose just because we haven't played cricket for a while, little decision-making things. So yeah, it is weird, and batting time has proved difficult, I think. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it will be difficult to go out and bat a long time to start with. But I think once guys sort of get themselves in, I think, they find what it feels like to bat again. it's an interesting thing, run scoring, because it is a feeling, isn't it, as well as an ability. So yeah, guys will have to, you know, be a bit gritty, a bit more dogged, I suppose, in the season, and just try and score as many as they can. But yeah, it is going to be harder.
You bowlers, that sounds like it must be joyful to hear, isn't it? Batsmen going into the season and think it's going to be hard to stay at the crease for too long. You must be licking your lips at the idea of that.
Just got to land a few.
I don't have to play against these blokes, so it's all right.
We played like yesterday in the warm-up game of Northants. It was obvious like how positive people were. I don't know if that's obviously because like their averages weren't on the line or whatever, or it was a warm-up game, but particularly against spin, like blokes coming out and playing in a way you might not expect them to, leading up to the first Champion game. And similar to Rye, we had a lot of people making really good starts and then like making those mistakes. I think it will be interesting to see. Just got to, yeah, I guess from a bowling perspective, just hang in there, and even if you go for a couple of boundaries early on, which certainly happened yesterday, like the pattern was very much, it was either a dot or four, really. There wasn't a lot of there wasn't much in between. So I think that may be interesting, and especially when it comes to people trying to win games as well.
What's it been like? Obviously mentioned George Scott earlier at Gloss and guys. I'm trying to think who else was meant to join over the winter, but in terms of new players and stuff like that, I mean, what's it been like integrating guys in who I guess you've not seen? I don't know, you've not seen much of. You might have done a bit of stuff in the winter nets and stuff, but you presumably then went a few months without seeing. What's it been like for them? I guess to all of you.
Yeah, well, just on Scotty, I think he's fitted in really well. He obviously spent the whole winter training with us and stuff, and yeah, I mean, from speaking to him, he's really happy and seems to have really enjoyed it. But yeah, I suppose he hasn't had the chance to necessarily get out there and show what he's capable of as yet in a proper championship game or a T20 or anything. But in the inter-squad games, he's been unbelievably good. He's batted really well. He's bowled really well. And yeah, I think very impressive. And I think by the sounds of it, he seems to think he's integrated really well. So I'm pretty happy, yeah.
Mason, obviously I guess you came back to cricket earlier than Ryan and Ethan, because you were obviously did the white ball 55 stuff. I mean, I guess what was that whole thing like? I mean, how much did it be told first of all that you had that chance to come back that bit earlier?
Yeah, that was great, because I think we by that time approaching the bit where you start to climb the walls and really start to miss it.
At that time where you start playing video game tournaments, don't you?
Yeah, just when I'm playing video games, I'm watching it be sunny all summer and knowing that I'm missing out on some dry wickets to bowl on. But yeah, no, it's weird. So obviously I started with all that, and I started with just me and Dorset at the Aegeus Bowl, and obviously it progressed onwards, and it feels like we've come a long way since then in terms of the protocols and the way that how comfortable everyone is with it, and how organised I guess everything is. So yeah, it's been weird. It's been quite a long road to this point, really. You're probably looking at nearly 2 months for me now.
Were any of you uncertain about coming back into it, given the circumstances? Your clubs give you the assurances that you needed that would be okay?
Personally, I had no problems whatsoever, and I think if we're being honest, if it was not a money thing, I think we're probably looking at being back earlier. To be honest, so I think once you're there, you've obviously had your checks, you've filled out your questionnaires. You can be pretty comfortable that no one's got it, and you can be pretty comfortable that you're not going to have to go too close to anyone. So I've not come across anyone who's had any doubts whatsoever so far.
So the same for you two, Ryan, Ethan, all been comfortable?
Yeah, exactly the same. Yeah.
Like my parents were kind of in that like high risk category, but like the assurances that were made were incredibly clear and like followed through by Middlesex, and like as May said, there's very like stringent procedures going to training stuff, and now obviously it's becoming a bit more kind of regular and getting more used to it, but I felt very comfortable going there throughout. And
how have you found the various restrictions and stuff? Obviously the saliva, the sanitization breaks, all the stuff that's come with it. I mean, from a club perspective, we sanitize the ball after 6 overs and it starts swinging. Like presumably using better ball, but like our thing just went dead straight for the next 50 overs. What's that all been like? Not so much the the ball in the air, but like all those, leaving the field every 10 overs and all that kind of stuff.
long sessions.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's from obviously when I started, it was I feel it was a lot stricter then.
Yeah.
Then I'm talking my own 6 cricket balls no one else could touch. And I remember the first day I bowled, Dorst was in before me. We weren't allowed there at the same time, and he had a marker on the ground he was bowling at, and he had put it there with his hands, and things like I wasn't allowed to go and pick it up and move it. It just had to stay there. Stuff like that. I mean, and then since the whole squad's been back, it's not been quite like that. We've been in small groups and stuff, but again, it's just an awareness thing, and it's not really taken anyone too long to get used to it. It's the temperature check and stuff's kind of become part of your routine. On the way in, someone scans your forehead and then you crack on. It's not been too different, I don't think.
Yeah, agreed. Like it's been weird as well, like seeing how different clubs have done it. I feel like everyone's sort of taken the rules and just run with them a bit differently.
So Gloucester are quite on the money with them, aren't they? They're very much following it by the absolute letter.
Yeah, we have been following it by the letter, to be fair. So I think Somerset have had a few different. Judging on this week, it was slightly different, and sort of we had to have a chat about how it was all going to go, because I think there's been sort of different rules for both teams, which is fair enough because the guidelines are there, but I suppose it's hard to know how closely you need to follow them, if that makes sense.
Are you guys worried at all about county cricket's future as a result of this year? And has that conversation popped up in dressing rooms around the country? Because obviously we talk about it in the media and wonder about financial implications of much of a year without any cricket and potentially a whole year without any fans of cricket. But is it something that takes place at that conversation within dressing rooms?
I personally don't think it's that conversation's taken place in the dressing rooms. Well, it's certainly not in our dressing room that much. I think the little conversations about, salaries and all that obviously do tend to take place. But I think it will be hard as players to really understand the financial implications until someone actually gets a sheet out and shows us the financial implications. Because I feel like everyone sits there and goes, these are the financial implications. But realistically, I have no idea no one's actually sat me down at a table and gone, here are the numbers, this is what is going on at our club. So whether they say we're in a good financial position or a terrible financial position, it's hard to really know. So that's sort of been my point of view on it. I think it is what it is. We've got our job and I suppose they've got theirs, but there needs to come a point where everyone's slightly more honest with each other. I think that's the right way to put it.
Yeah, Mace, what about you? What about Hampshire? Is there any conversation that goes on there?
I think it's just your general stuff. I mean, there's always conversation around where it's going, and there's obviously loads of chat last year about what's the 100 going to do to affect it, and what we'd give now to be back in that position. But yeah, it's similar to Higgo. I mean, until someone shows us numbers and proves that they're right. There's nothing we can really know about it. I guess you just presume it's like any other business where our squads may become slightly smaller. Same as everything else. You just don't know until it happens. But as players, I think after all this time, I think everyone's just happy to be back at it and playing cricket really. And it's been really nice this week with the practice game we had against Sussex, just to be talking about the match and talking about cricket and how we're going to go about our games and what coming off at lunch and talking about what fielder we should have where, stuff like that. That's been really nice because we've obviously been missing that for such a long time.
Have you been able to what like? Sorry, I was going to ask a completely ridiculous question there. What I meant to say was, did you enjoy watching? Did you watch much England stuff, and did you enjoy it? I mean, or is it almost hard to watch cricket being played when you're not sort of involved in it? If you know what I mean. I guess to all of you, I mean, not from a disappointed not being picked point of view, but with obviously nothing else going on, sort of watching live cricket. And I mean, what was that like? Or was it just nice to have something to watch?
I mean, I watched every ball I could, I think. Don't know about you boys.
Oh,
I loved it.
I'm not a huge cricket watcher really. I mean, I watch it when it's on, and I like to watch the highlights and stuff. But there's kind of been nothing else to do, so yeah, I found myself watching quite a lot of the game, and to be honest, thoroughly enjoying it. Really, like I think the coverage has been really great, and it's kind of made it. That's similar to the football, really. I mean, as a viewer at home, I've got to say it's not made all that much difference to obviously my experience watching it. And I think that's probably a testament to Sky, how they've done.
Yeah, no, it's like it took me a while to get back into kind of watching sport after having such a long time not. And so like when it was back on initially, I kind of was like forgetting it was on and stuff. But then, as Ryan May said, yeah, just like the coverage has been so good, and there's been a lot of like features and stuff. And I think almost for me that's more interesting sometimes than the play itself, especially with football, because I've got no idea what's going on. So I like it when they do that, like the analysis stuff, and in the cricket as well. It's been class. But I watched all of this week. It's definitely easier to watch when you're playing it, I think.
We talk a lot about well, lots of people say, county championship cricket is just as well being played behind closed doors anyway, because there's hardly anyone that comes and watches it, even if often that is quantifiably untrue. But for you guys, what will it be like playing in front of no one? I mean, this might be more applicable to the Blast, but what would it be like playing in front of absolutely no one?
I think it'll be strange, won't it? And yeah, not many people come to Championship cricket, but when someone strokes on through the covers, there's still a ripple of applause. It'll be strange, but I think, like I was saying earlier, once you're out there, I don't know about you guys, but even T20 games, when I'm in the middle bowling, I don't really hear too much anyway. I'm trying to focus so hard. So I think once we're out there and get going, I think the competitiveness will be enough. People have got 4 months worth of competitive built up that they all want to get out. So everyone will want to be scoring runs, taking wickets, and winning games. And I think that will create the intensity itself.
Yeah, I think the weirdest bit for me is like the celebrating. So like, yeah, the crowd and stuff, but not being able to like just jump on someone when they take a wicket is just ridiculous. That's been the weirdest thing. That's hard. It's really hard to create an atmosphere as a team. I don't know if you found that, you other two, but yeah, I found the atmosphere has been slightly lower because you can't celebrate together. It's sort of a celebration, but not really, the proper one.
Yeah, it's been weird because you take a pre-season wicket and it's not a celebration anyway, is it really? It's a kind of so well done, mate. How many hours we got left out here?
Yeah.
But there's a couple of times we have kind of got in the circle and there's been a lot of high-fiving fists. Someone's got it wrong, and it'll be interesting to see how that sort of stuff goes, because it will obviously mean a lot to people taking a wicket, and I guess there'll be quite a few guys playing their first few games, and obviously a lot of, I guess, fringe players really trying to stake a claim in the team. So it will mean a lot to them, and I guess, they may let loose.
Do you worry about I guess especially for you, mates, given I guess the last couple of years. I mean, in most other years, if you get a niggle, if you get a side strain, you miss a couple of weeks, you miss a month, and you come back, and obviously you've got 3, supposedly now 4 formats, but suddenly now we've got essentially a month and a half, 2 months, 2 formats. If you're a Red Bull player and you get a injury next week, and you could miss the whole season, and I guess same a month later with the Blast, like, does that kind of thing come into your mind? I mean, that suddenly like that little side strain niggle or that hammy could sort of end your year without being pretty bleak about it.
Yeah, and I think it's, to be honest, I think when you get to August in any season, that's the sort of thing that starts happening. And I tore my side last year in August, and again we took a big risk with it, trying to come back early, because thinking, well, if it goes again, I've got all winter to get over it. So yeah, I mean, you may see guys playing through some injuries and stuff, and hopefully there's been a big enough run up that the seams have got enough overs in and they're feeling good enough, and spinners like myself that tend to get injuries, we're okay as well. A lot of overs to bowl, but yeah, I guess you keep telling yourself it's only 5 games, you sort of force yourself through it. And
a 5-day match though, potentially at the end of it, which would be something that not a lot of county players get the opportunity to do. Obviously, Mason, you played a test match, so it's a little bit different there, but for a lot of guys, you don't get the opportunity to play this, and potentially at Lords as well. That's got to be a nice little prize at the end of it for people playing across the competition.
5 good lunches and a lot of rain.
Absolutely. Miracle if it goes all 5 days in August.
So that's not going 5 days.
September, no.
But it'll be the end of September, beginning of October though. By then, I think
Lords
might even get some snow.
Lords hasn't gone 4 days for about 3 years.
Yeah.
It won't, but I'll still be there day 5 for the lunch. Don't worry.
Yeah, Friendly, you say what's the worst thing about playing at Radler, or what's the lunches?
What?
No Lord's lunch.
Yeah, there you go. Well, there's the big cutting question. What's the difference between a Lord's lunch and an outground lunch?
A lot. About 40 quid's worth, I reckon.
Radler's very good though. They do good desserts.
Yeah, Radler's unbelievable. Yeah, Radler's one of the best going.
In a funny kind of way, these are things you're sort of discussing now. Like obviously having been out of the sort of like the grind for a pretty long while, like these sort of like quirky things and things you might have forgotten that happened last year and stuff like that.
Lord's steak and chips. Yeah.
Oh yeah. But yeah, you do. Like we obviously had packed lunches this week, brought to you. Yes. And, yeah, it's little things like changing rooms. We were in HOWELLS indoor school this week. In a weird way, I really liked it. It was so much room and stuff, and it was kind of weird. We had like our own gym stuff down there, and obviously the nets and stuff. And I guess every ground you go to now, there's no one there, so you might as well use as much of the ground as you want. So that might be quite a nice and different experience to being cooped up in a tiny room on a tiny balcony at Chelmsford for 4 days. You might be able to go and sit where you want and not get abused.
Yeah, same thing. We've got way better changing rooms. We've got like where all the members sit, right by the bar. You could probably have an indoor game in there, actually.
And you're getting food brought to you, made up for you as well. Spare a thought for those club cricketers that are having to bring their own bread, sausage rolls or whatever it is.
I disagree. The club bring your own tea is it's opened so many doors. If we bet first next week, we've agreed we're doing Domino's at tea. Like you can never do that if you're away at. I won't name the grounds, but like where you get some like beige sandwich and a freezing cold apple. Like, give me a Greg's meal deal every day of the week.
You could just get a Nando's now after, isn't it like half chicken and chips about £4.90 on the weekend?
We did KFC last week when it started raining.
I'm conscious that there is actually a Nando's waiting for Mason as well. So I think we're gonna need to wrap it up at that point. I don't want his chicken to go cold. So guys, thank you very much for joining us. Best of luck for the season. We might be able to get out on one point. If not, I'm sure we'll catch on streams if clubs are making them freely available. But go well, and thank heavens there's some actual cricket be played. Thanks very much for joining us, guys.
Cheers, lads.
Cheers, thanks so much. Cheers.
Right, I'm joined by two illustrious names from the world of county cricket journalism. Kevin Howells of the BBC, Mark Church, also of the BBC. Hello to both of you. Thank you very much for joining us.
Well, thank you very much, Sam. It's good to be with you. As for the other chap, well, you can't get everything, can you?
Hello, Sam. Do you know what? I have seen so much of Kevin Howells over the last week. It's been after not seeing him for 15 weeks in lockdown, but speaking every week, we have seen an awful lot of each other over the last week, and it's been a joy. So yes, it's lovely to be back and lovely to see you, Sam.
It's lovely to see everyone's face. I think there's been a lot of withdrawal symptoms of various cricket correspondents around the world, certainly on WhatsApp groups, etc. Seemed to be a lot of codependency going on in our particular profession, and not being able to see each other has certainly had an impact. So what have you been doing to pass the time? I'm going to start with Kevin, because a lot of basically anyone who spends time on cricket Twitter will know what Mark has been doing. But Kevin, how have you spent the time leading up to the return of county cricket?
Well, I suppose I've been doing what everybody else is doing, really, is just trying to check on Churchy all the time, thinking, is there any medication we can send through across the bridge or not to him? And like most people, we failed to do so. So I'd just like to say, before he does, and I'm sure you will do, Churchy, brilliant, mate. It's been absolutely stunning, whether it's been with Izzy or whether it's been with the garden. Am I really saying this? Whether it's been with the garden furniture, you have been outstanding. But I'll let you talk more with Mark in a minute. To answer your question, to be perfectly, if I may be serious, to start off with, when it became pretty clear at the end of March, towards the end of March and into April, that the season wasn't going to happen, at least to begin with, I just couldn't get my head around whether I really cared about cricket. I thought in the sense that I thought it was just such an irrelevance to everything else that was going on. And then through April and into May, I suppose, either rightly or wrongly, and people have their different views on this, you start to get a bit more confident about things, and then you start to think to yourself, hold on, if I don't see any cricket between now and September, there's every chance I won't be seeing any cricket between now and next April. And I started to think, in the context of everything else that's going on, again, is that really an important thing? Well, to me personally, yes. And to many other people, yes, it will be a very big loss. So that's what was going on in my mind. And I was trying to ring around a few directors of cricket, trying to ring around a few chief executives just to test the temperature of whether they thought there would be any domestic cricket. And we got to the stage, I think about middle of May, when they were saying, you know, I think there's a real chance that there won't be. So that was one thing. The other thing in terms of work, well, there wasn't a lot of cricket work going on. The BBC had some work for me to do at home, and I was listening, and it was a fantastic job actually in many ways, listening to old TMS programs, whether it be to Views from the Boundary, whether it be to Days of Cricket, and the amount of enjoyment I got out of that, because the nature of the work was I had to listen really quite closely and very carefully, and it's been the same actually over the first couple of test matches. Obviously, I've been at test matches, and I've been working at test matches before, but just to sit and listen and watch a little bit as well, without any, if you like, distractions or work or calls through this or calls through that, you've sort of seen cricket a little bit like many listeners and many viewers do all the time. It's blooming brilliant. It's almost a different sort of experience. So that's the sort of thing I've been up to. I could include hours and hours of home learning as well, which I struggled on a little bit, but actually had great fun with my son. So the family side of it, like many other people, you're thinking to yourself, we did really well. We were really, really lucky. But, you know, wanted cricket back, and thankfully we've now got it.
Of course, we did have some cricket in a back garden in Surrey to keep us going. And Mark, it was quite an astonishing effort to get through a Test series, an ODI series, and a T20 series, and continue to introduce new characters and subplots and themes. And to be honest, you should be on the EastEnders writing staff by now with the different storylines that you managed to create using swing balls and benches and lawnmowers. I think that, how do you reflect on your summer so far?
Well, the way I put it, Sam, and the way I've put it to everybody is basically you were watching me have a nervous breakdown live on Twitter. That's the way I've put it. No, look, I have to thank the cricketer, number one, because with the Quarantine Cup, that was a saviour for me, because I really wanted to do some commentary, and as people saw, my poor daughter Isabel had to sit next to me on most days at the start of lockdown, doing commentary on great moments in cricket. And then your brilliant Quarantine Cup, which I thought was fantastic, it just sort of kept me going, really, if I'm honest. And I got to the end of that and I thought, oh, right, okay, what am I going to do now? And as a kid, that basically what you watch me do as a 46-year-old man is what I used to do as a kid anyway. That's what I used to spend my summers doing. And I got the shock of my life when I did sort of the first bit of it, and people seemed to like it. And then the Times, Rosamund Unwin rang me and said, "Could we do a bit with you in the Times about it?" And I was like, "If you want to, it'd be lovely." And from that point on, it went a bit mad. So, yes, as I say, I think basically you were watching me have a breakdown. But I was actually rather, this is going to sound pathetic, but at the end of it, the last sort of 2020, I was quite emotional. I was sort of sat in the garden taking a photo. This again sounds utter mad. Taking a photo of myself with swing ball, little garden bench, petrol mower. And I thought, we've done 10 weeks of this all together, me and the garden furniture. But I think it was about time I stopped, Sam. I think we were very close to men in white coats turning up and carting me away at that point. But then, of course, you know, as Kevin said, on a serious point, it was at the start of all of this, I honestly didn't think we'd have cricket. I really didn't. I thought that this summer's going to go completely. And then slowly but surely, confidence grew, players came back. We've seen what's happened with the Test series. And then, of course, Kevin and I were lucky enough to be back at the Oval at the weekend for the friendly game. And it was just wonderful. It was just lovely to be back at cricket. And, you know, to have 1,000 members in there as well, and real people and real proper clapping and a real proper atmosphere. It was just lovely. And a bit like Kevin, I think at the start of this, I was a little along the lines of, does it really matter? Does cricket really matter? With everything else that is going on at the moment, does cricket matter? But yes, it does. It really does. And I think it's been proved that, you know, we all love our cricket, and it's something that we need for our summers. And due to a lot of hard work from an awful lot of people, we've now got cricket back again. We're going to get 2 months of cricket. And I think it's absolutely wonderful, and I think it will be, the Bob Willis Trophy will be terrific, and I think the 2020 will be terrific. So, yeah, I think it is important, and I'm just absolutely over the moon that cricket is back.
Has Isabel's appetite for cricket diminished over the course of the summer, or is she showing any signs of fatigue of both the sport and probably her father?
I think both, actually. Yes, I think she was amazing. Bless her heart, she was absolutely amazing. You know, and I think she put up with Dad. I think it was. But she was the talent. You see, that was the thing. She was the talent, as everybody saw. But you see, then homeschooling started, Sam, and I was actually trying to fit it into homeschool. This is where I fell down completely. I had a serious chat with the powers that be, both at home and at school, that, you know, what we're doing, that can be part of homeschooling. You know, that slotted it in. A, it's part of sort of acting, isn't it? B, it's part of her sort of film studies. C, she's learning about sport. And then we built a YouTube channel. So in my eyes, that was computer studies. Yeah, my head, that worked, but with everybody else, it didn't. So, who knows? One day, I think the thing is, Sam, in years to come, I will look back on what I did with Isabel and I'll think, wasn't that lovely? I'll look back at what I did in the back garden with the garden furniture and think, how the hell was I not sectioned, basically? So that's the way I'll look at it.
Okay, well, now we can look forward to some actual cricket, and it starts on Saturday. Both of you guys have been at games, as we've mentioned. Kevin, what's the vibe that you've got from being at the games that you've been at so far, both from the clubs that are running it and from people that are around the game itself? Do you think that it has the potential to be a success, even if there are only a limited number or no people allowed into the games?
Yes, I think there will be. So my experience of 2 games, one Friday and Saturday, which is a Roses clash, and it was pretty much played like that as well, I think, between Yorkshire and Lancashire and Leeds. And then on Sunday, it was Surrey versus Middlesex. There were different games because, of course, the Surrey-Middlesex one, spectators were allowed in as part of the pilot scheme, 1,000 spectators each day. The Yorkshire-Lancashire one, sadly, whether or not they tried to get it on the pilot scheme, I don't know, but because I'm sure there would have been a really massive uptake of people that wanted to go and see it, but they couldn't go and see that one. And I think the thing that struck me about off the field for both, although one was without spectators, is one, everything was done correctly. And this includes walking in as a commentator to Headingley on the Friday and Saturday, felt safe. If that doesn't sound too silly, because of course, who knows what's going on, but it's a matter of feeling safe, and I felt very safe. And also I felt relaxed. It is weird. It is a bit bizarre because you're commentating on a game of cricket like it's a normal game, and yet there's nobody there and all that sort of thing. So it is a bit weird. But everybody within the club at Yorkshire at Leeds, and the same applied to the events at the Kia Oval as well, everybody was trying to make sure that everybody felt comfortable and relaxed. And from listening and seeing what the spectators said on Sunday and Monday, that was very much the same thing. In terms of the cricket being played, well, there were, as contests, of course, there were friendly matches, the winners, the losers, did it matter? But there were individual contests, which I really enjoyed. And I would take that away from it. I would take away from it as well the fact that we are going to see a lot of young players, really young players who perhaps and probably would not get a look in first-class cricket quite at the stage of their career they're at, but they are going to get a look in over the next few weeks. And although there are people perhaps questioning that the quality, the standard of cricket, well, fine, have that opinion. I personally don't care. I care about seeing some of the young, talented players, mixing it with some of the more experienced ones who are still around. And I'm really genuinely looking forward to the competition. I don't know how they're going to play it, but I presume they're going to be really attacking, really adventurous. We've only got 4 or 5 games, haven't we? Unless you get through to the final, then you get an extra one. And I think 2 important things to say. One, that final, that 5-day final, is a real attraction for these players and the clubs. And the naming of the trophy as the Bob Willis Trophy, I think, has given real focus to it all as well. Players would love to lift a trophy with the name of Bob Willis on it. The county championship, of course, is fantastic as a competition and a trophy in itself, but this is different. The Bob Willis Trophy, I think people are going to try really hard, and I think we're going to enter some entertaining few weeks of first-class cricket.
Mark, what about you? What are you looking forward to most about the Bob Willis Trophy?
I'm just looking forward to what I think will be a really competitive tournament. I think the players are so, and I know you're going to speak to players, but they're so keen to get back out there again. You know, I think every single one of them just wants to play cricket. And we saw that at the Kia Oval with the friendly game. You know, it was taken very, very seriously. You could see every player was relishing being out there. What interested me as well was, especially with the batsmen, I think what you're going to see with batsmen is if they get in, they're not going to give it away because they've been waiting so long to have a bat that I think they're going to get their heads down. I think I agree with Kevin. I think it'll be very positive cricket. I rather like the fact now that it's 4-day games that we wouldn't have had. So Surrey playing Middlesex, we wouldn't have had that this season because of different divisions. Of course, Surrey are going to play against Sussex again in a 4-day game, which hasn't happened for a while. And I agree with Kevin. I think that the thought of a test match at the end of it, which is basically what it is, you know, for every county player, there's a carrot being dangled in front of them that you will get to play a test match, hopefully at Lord's. And for county players, because we're not going to see much of the international boys, are we? If you think of Surrey, that's 7, I think it is, are in their bubbles, and they're not going to play anything in the Bob Willis Trophy or the 2020, probably, realistically. So for county pros, you know, there's a chance there of playing a 5-day test match at the end of it, which, you know, they might not ever get that opportunity again. So I think with the time that we've got, I think, you know, the powers that be have actually come up with a tournament that the players are really looking forward to, with a prize at the end of it that is well worth having. And I think that will focus the attention. And I'm expecting it to be very, very hard fought. And the 2 teams that get to the final would have deserved to have got there, because I think we're going to have some very, very positive cricket over the 5 weeks to get to that final.
There was a bit of a split between the counties as those who wanted red ball cricket to be played this year and those who didn't. It seems that there's been at least a semblance of an amicable settlement for it. But can you understand, Kevin, why there would have been some counties who would much rather have played just cricket, so a 50-over leading into a T20, rather than having the 4-day competition bolted in at the front?
Just like with the bigger picture, Sam, I genuinely will go along with whatever anybody says, whatever anybody feels as being where they're at with the whole COVID-19 thing. I think at certain points there was concern because nobody knew if hotels would be open, so where were the players going to stay? I think there was that. There's still obviously the concern about what could be put in place to make sure that players are not going to get injured, especially the bowlers. In an ideal world, what I think probably would have happened is we would have played the limited overs cricket first and the red ball cricket later. Now, I say an ideal world, and those people that love to watch red ball cricket won't enjoy perhaps what I believe is the reality of things. If we're likely, or if we could get more spectators to come in, it's going to be more in September than it will be in August, and therefore obviously they'll put the T20 back because they will think there will, you know, potential for larger crowds of the T20. But in terms of the physical side of it, that would have been better the other way around. So there's genuine concerns about that. And also, when you bear in mind some of the things you will have read and seen about the biosecure bubble for international cricket, that comes at a huge cost. It's a cost which, you know, at county cricket level, can that really be met? So they've had to work out a way where the players themselves, and, you know, you'll be talking to them, feel safe about things. Also, within the playing conditions for the competition, it's 120 overs, no new ball until 90 overs instead of 80, that sort of thing. So there are things that have been brought about because of genuine medical concern for some of the players. So all those things had to be factored in, along with the cost of staging matches. So, you know, what sort of help and assistance could there be from the ECB? So all those things come into play, and it's not just in cricket, it's within other sports as well. This awful look and feel of a cricket club that perhaps doesn't want to play cricket, but the reason it doesn't want to play cricket for actually legitimate reasons. And thankfully we've come through that. We seemingly have come through with everybody eventually getting to agree. Although if we look forward to a world beyond COVID, I really do hope that somehow county cricket can get its act together a little bit better in speaking as a more united front. If we all want 18 counties, those that do want 18 counties to continue, they're all different size clubs, they all have different you know, economic models, that sort of thing. They've got to work better together. But that's post-COVID. In COVID, I think you have to be as generous as you possibly can to everybody and their concerns. And I'm just pleased it all got sorted out.
Post-COVID, indeed. 2021 might be just as hard as 2020 for the counties, and dealing with debt or loss of earnings from this year and trying to make it up, and potentially not even being able to have the capacities that they would have had in 2019. Mark, do you see county cricket being changed forever by this summer, or is there an opportunity for it to get back to what was such a promising 2019 and catch on to those vibes that seem such a long time ago now?
I think it has been changed. I think
I agree exactly with what Kevin was saying. You know, I think you had to take into account costs, player safety, everything with COVID. But let's be honest, as you said in the question, there was a split, wasn't there? And when splits happen, people find out what people are thinking. So I think around that table now, everybody knows what everybody else is thinking. And I think that will change things. And also, of course, we will have the 100 next year, and the focus of the attention, whether you agree with it or you don't agree with it, the focus of the attention will be even more heightened now in the fact that it obviously hasn't happened this year. So I think with county cricket, you know, we all love our county cricket. Everybody knows that. But in the way of life now, post-COVID, things are changing. And as I say, if people have been sort of sat round the table and sort of putting across their thoughts on maybe why they might want to play white ball cricket more than red ball cricket, that's out there now. And those discussions have been had, and those discussions will go into next season. And like with everything, I think, Sam, don't they say that COVID has brought everything forward by 5 years in every industry? Everything that's happening would have happened in 5 years' time, but because of COVID, it's all been pushed forward by 5 years. And you know, you might find that's the same with county cricket. But county championship cricket will be there, and it will be. I honestly believe that championship cricket will be around. But it might be a bit different. It might change in certain respects. And you have to say as well, Sam, you know, with the 100 having not been played this year, and the ECB have put an awful lot of attention into it, you know, it is going to be played next year. And understandably for the ECB, they wanted it to work this year, and it had to work this year. It's got to work even more next year, and they'll want it even more next year. So I think everything will change on that front, just because we've lost an awful lot of cricket this summer, and it has forced counties to sit around a table together and discuss what they genuinely think. And I think those discussions were very open and very honest. I'm very glad that they've come up, and I understand the reasons for possibly some counties being nervous about the red ball stuff, because as Kevin was saying, costs, hotels, players, safety. But those discussions have now been had, and how the game moves forward from here will be fascinating, I think.
Kevin, do you think that we'll have 18 counties playing red ball cricket in 2021?
Well, it's interesting that Neil Snowball, who was previously the chief executive of Warwickshire, has taken on a new role. He's now become the managing director of, forgive me if I don't know the full title, but basically looking after county cricket. And he has got a very big job here on, and he will of course have lots of contacts. He will know everybody so well because he will have been sitting around the same tables as the other chief executives over the last few years now, to sort out what I believe is the big issue of every time that, and I've been doing this for too long now, so forgive me if I sound a bit world weary by it all, of every time that something comes up in county cricket, you go round and round in circles because everybody fights their own corner. Now, I understand that if you're a chairman or you're a chief executive of the county cricket club, you're going to fight for your own club, and some are reliant quite heavily on money they get from the ECB. Yes, you can always argue, well, that's because they're helping to produce players for England, so that's fair enough, but they're very reliant on that. There are other counties who aren't quite so reliant on the ECB and make their money, or a large amount of their money, elsewhere. And it's trying to pull those together. And I think, for the sake of county cricket, either they all agree on what their aims and their objectives are and work together, or there is some sort, and this is an emotive term, not a split as in they go off with their own organisations, but they actually divide themselves up into something which works well for county cricket. Now, forgive me, if a chairman's looking at this, he said, well, of course we're doing the best for county cricket. I wouldn't dispute to a greater extent that much that they are. But for whilst many of them look after their own counties, it means that the game keeps going round and round in this circle and not making any advances. And I think that's the big thing. They need to get together and work out whether, as a group of 18, they can agree on one way forward and not different ways, not just saying, well, as I hear from time to time, I care about my county. To be honest, I don't care about the others, or they're not my worry. The game, domestic game, is not going to go anywhere if that attitude, which exists in some quarters, is allowed to carry on.
Well said, Kevin. Let's have a quick look at the Bob Willis Trophy. And looking at the teams that are playing, obviously, we know the 18 teams, but the identity of the players is very different from what we would normally expect in a county championship season. So are there any sides that you think are not going to be badly affected by missing overseas players, missing Colpacks, England players? So is there a strength in depth that is somewhere where you see, well, they've got the upper hand?
I think this is one for Mark Church.
Mark Church. Who's going to say sorry?
The reason I say that, let me just because that is for me the exciting bit of the Bob Willis Trophy, and this is not a great answer, Sam, but it's the unknown. We don't know which. I think that if you take a look at the likes of Middlesex second division, look at all the quality players they've got there. This is their chance, as they've already mentioned. Nick Gubbins was certainly one of those that mentioned before the Surrey Middlesex game. They feel this is their chance. Well, they'll hold their hands up and say, look, it's down to ourselves that we didn't get out of Division 2. But here now we've got this opportunity of mixing it again with the likes of Surrey and with Kent. And Sussex may be feeling the same with some of the talented individuals that they've got. And of course, they will get some of their England players back at certain times if they're involved with the one-day squad. They may be released for a week or two. I mean, I have to look at the diary to see how many games they'd be available for. So some of them I'd think about Yorkshire with Johnny Bairstow. Bairstow may be available at times for them. Only in the last 24 hours we've seen Stephen Finn from Middlesex, for example, do very well there. So I think there will be some of those second division teams and clubs who will really fancy their chances. There's some senior players around. I mean, let's not forget Ian Bell of Warwickshire, for example, the Milan signing up there at Yorkshire, if I did mention that earlier, because he, for injury reasons, so it is said, hasn't been involved so far for England with the ODI squads. You've got Joe Denley. Will he be made available to Kent and those sort of places? So I think that it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. But there will be some who have, I suppose, a few more established players available to them. But I think that the trophy will be won by the counties for whom those youngsters who they've backed to come through. I think maybe Matthew Waite at Yorkshire as well. He looked impressive the other day in that Lancashire game. They'll be the counties, I think, that are successful. That those that they're full of promise, those youngsters, and they take the opportunity, they grasp it, and they go well this summer.
Mark, do you have any particular inclination?
I always struggle to see past Essex these days. And if you look at who Essex have in their 11, they're all available, basically, aren't they? And Sir Alistair will be there banging out runs at the top of the order. He's not going anywhere, is he? Mr. Harmer will be there. And the other thing is, Sam, it's August, yeah? And the weather's nice. And I know we haven't played on too many wickets, but the weather's nice, the sun shines, Harmer comes into play.
Let alone the fact that the regulations are built as such to encourage spin bowling, so the wickets knacker themselves. So
if I had a favourite to go into it, it would be Essex, because I think they're a terrific team. But I agree. I completely agree with what Kevin says about the youngsters, and I think you'll see one or two names emerge at the end of this that possibly wouldn't have done had we had a normal season, because they wouldn't have got the opportunity. And that's exciting as well, I think. And you know, from a Surrey perspective, I mentioned, you know, they've got 7 away on international duty. The difference, obviously, is at the beginning of a normal season, they're all available because, they're easing their way back in and getting some red ball cricket before they go into the Test series. This time they're not. No Morkel, no Amler. But two names. Funnily enough, I was asked to do a preview for the Beeb today about what are Surrey's chances. It's Surrey, they'll win it. All, you know, the normal stuff. It's always the same, isn't it? And the two names I said were Will Jacks, because I think he's a hell of a talent, and I think he made runs in the Championship last season. But, you know, he's going to be an important cog in that wheel for Surrey and scoring runs over these 5 games. And there's a bit of responsibility on him. And he looked in excellent nick from what we saw over the weekend. And the other one is Jamie Smith, in the fact that Jamie will probably have to keep wicket as well for those 5 games. And you know, for a 21-year-old, he's going to have a hell of a lot of responsibility over 5 days of 5 rounds of 4-day cricket. But I just think that I agree with Kevin. I think there will be. I've given you a couple there from Surrey, but I think every county suddenly there'll be a youngster somewhere who's come in for whatever reason and might grab the opportunity of these 5 games with both hands. And at the end of this, Sam, in the cricketer, you'll be doing your ones to watch for 2021, and there'll be a few names in there that possibly, you know, people hadn't heard of before the Bob Willis Trophy.
May I raise my Zoom hand at this stage? Because I'm just thinking about Hasib Ahmed, looking forward to Nottinghamshire, Hasib Ahmed, how he's going to fare following his move from Lancashire. Joe Clark, for reasons are well documented, Joe Clark has had not an easy last couple of years. Will he come good in these next few weeks? I think that'll be fascinating. And you know, I saw over the weekend Adam Lyth and Tom Kohler-Cadmore in action for Yorkshire. I also saw Matthew Fisher come back. I saw Ben Code there as well. So I think Essex probably, as Mark would say, that you already noticed there's a bit of a northern-southern difference between myself and Churchy on this one. I'm trying to fight the corner at the same time. But I think Essex will obviously be very, very, very strong. But I think there'll be a few contenders from up north as well, and genuine excitement about some of these youngsters and some of the players that you know, should have perhaps made their breakthrough in the last couple of years, haven't done so well. What can they do in this month of August?
Yeah, and Sam, just I'll put my Zoom finger up if that's all right. And the other ones, you know, the pressure. I think it's worth saying the pressure on the guys that are in the last years of contracts, who may now get an opportunity over these 5 games to nail down a contract in the future that they, you know, you don't know. They may not have got this opportunity. So I think if there are players there that are on the last year of contracts that are playing in these 5 rounds, the motivation for them is absolutely second to none. But yeah, I'd agree with Kevin. Hamid is a really good one. It's going to be fascinating to watch him, and you know, fingers crossed, because the boy's such a talent and he's gone through such a bad time. It would be absolutely wonderful to see him back scoring runs again.
I think we can all agree that it's going to be a competitive tournament. It's not exactly like a bunch of friendlies bolted together. I think it's going to be entertaining for those who do get to watch, and let's hope that as many people can or can find a stream to watch it, or can listen, of course, to both of you around the place. And I wish you both a very enjoyable next 4 or 5 weeks, bringing in some county cricket to everyone who's missed it so dearly. Thank you so much for joining me today and talking about some county cricket. What a brilliant change it's been. Kevin, Mark, thank you very much.
Thank you, Sam.
Thanks, Sam. Thank you.
Can you honestly believe that we're going to see some actual county cricket? Well, some of us will see some actual county cricket over the course of the next few weeks.
Yeah, do you know, we're incredibly excited here at the cricket club to finally get some cricket very close to being underway. I think if you'd have asked me that question maybe 3 months ago, I think we may have struggled to have got the fixture list up and running. It was looking, as time marched on, it looked like that cricket would almost be cancelled for a year, which would have been a tragedy, of course. But I've got to say that the ECB, the clubs have all kind of worked together and worked incredibly hard to work through the issues that have been faced to ensure that cricket's up and running. And I think, you know, the efforts that they've put in is to be applauded, because cricket is not awash with cash. So all the testing, the protocols, the guidelines, that they all add extra expense to actually any stadium. And football has gone through that, and I dare say that will have not been cheap. And the same applies to cricket grounds. You know, to do that is not cheap. But we're good to go now. You know, us here in Leicestershire have had tremendous support from our local authority. You know, our chief executive of the city council, he basically sort of said he was excited about cricket being played here, and we had an added complication of the local lockdown. But we've worked, you know, the team here have worked really, really hard to get it on. And I think our first home game is going to be against Derbyshire here at the Fisher County Ground, I think the 8th of August. So
you are going to be able to play all your games, you think, at Grace Road, at the Fisher County Ground?
Yeah, no reason why not. We are prepared. We have done everything possible. You know, the ECB commissioned some architects to come around all the grounds and give us advice as to how it could work with a visiting team and the umpires, etc. And we followed that. We followed that to the letter. So for us, we're good to go. We're ready. We're up and running. Players are excited. So yeah, you know, we've got to be careful of injuries during the game. So there's been some mitigation in terms of what we do, how we play during the matches. But for us, you know, we're keen as mustard. Just let you know, the mustard colour of my shirt. You know, so we're keen to get going. And I think you know, bring it on.
What has the conversations between county execs, chairmen been like, and how cooperative have everyone been? Obviously, there will have been some who will have wanted to play white ball and not red ball, and some who weren't really bothered too much either way. Can you give us, with obvious caveats for confidentiality, but a general idea of those conversations and how it's been structured in the months leading up to the decision?
Yeah, they've been very, conversations have been incredibly thorough and detailed in the approach to make sure that cricket is doing the right thing. You know, a lot of the counties will have different opinions and different views on what should happen. And we were no different to that. We had our opinions and our views. We always said that it was incredibly important for the collective. So in other words, you know, when the votes came as to what we needed to do or what we were going to do, that we would go with the collective. And I think, you know, I'm delighted to see that has been the case all the way through. So the debates have been healthy, they've been lively, and I think they've been challenging. But what I've seen in cricket is a real uniform approach to actually trying to get the solution. They all know what the end goal is, and just posing those questions. So for me, it's been fascinating to watch. There's no one-upmanship or anything like that. It's all been different opinions that have got to where we are. And some clubs have got huge memberships that have an appetite for 4-day cricket. Others haven't. Some have got a real appetite to play the T20. So you know, there's not one size fits all, but we've actually worked really hard. And that's been a weekly Zoom conference call with all the chief execs of the counties, working through the detail to get where we are. It hasn't been easy. I would say it's been incredibly complex. And the ECB and the staff at the ECB are to be applauded, because they've not only had to deal with 18 opinionated chief execs, but also the backdrop of the test matches. So that can't have been easy for them. So, but we've got there in the end, and I think now it's a case of let's get the game on and do what we can, and hopefully edge towards stage 5 and getting fans back into the grounds.
See, we're seeing some fans in a limited amount in a couple of friendlies, and today the ECB have said that they'll also be allowing a couple into the Oval and to Edgbaston for the first round of the Bob Willis. There's still any hope among you chief executives that fans will be allowed in limited capacity during the blast on a wider scale?
Yeah, I think it's a real difficult question to answer, because you never know, as we've seen in places like Spain where they're having sort of spikes and things like that. So you've got to be incredibly cautious in terms of what we're doing, and especially here in Leicestershire with the local lockdown that we've had. That said, we're probably the safest area in the country right at this moment in time. So I think you almost have to follow government advice, and the government advice is great in terms of encouraging these tests, these pilots, and we hope that they provide the right kind of results and the right guideline for the ECB and the government. But if I'm honest, I'm not so sure we would see stage 5 in cricket. I think we will possibly run out of time to get stage 5 into grounds, which you would think is October time. There may be the opportunity in the finals for the T20 competition, but I wouldn't say I was confident in that. I'm hopeful but not confident. I think you'd probably see more crowds going back to football when they begin, probably October time, November time, depending again on what happens with the R rate and all those sorts of things. So hopeful, but I wouldn't say confident on it. I would say optimistic is my view.
And how does that affect a club like Leicestershire, who will generate a huge amount of its annual revenue through gate receipts and assorted spend for those blast matches? So, what sort of cost is it to you, and are you worried about the financial implications of 2010?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this situation, I think I've gone on press and saying that effectively the COVID situation has probably cost us a minimum of 1 million in terms of revenue that could be generated. And that's not just spectators turning up to matches. It also is the function rooms, the facilities, the ground. We had 2 concerts planned here for the Fisher County ground. So losing those has been big hammer blows to us. So it's absolutely critical that we get fans, supporters, spectators, and sport is not, as we've seen, it's great, but it's not the same without spectators. So it's massively important that we get people back into the stadium, but only when it's safe to do so. So for us, from October, it'll be hard work for us, because then we go all the way through to April without having any cricket matches, if you like. So we've got to be creative. We've got to push the boundaries on what we can do to generate income into the club. So it is hugely important, and I think we've got through this situation by 2 things really financially. One, the support of the ECB and their central funding that has been an absolute godsend, and the job retention scheme. We furloughed 75% of our staff to help us really to protect the longer term future of Leicestershire County Cricket Club, which has worked in the short term. We've then got to come out of the COVID lockdown, and we've got to come out fighting and ready to go, of which we've prepared a roadmap for that, and it's now just a case of us delivering it and making sure we can make that happen.
With clubs like Leicestershire, it's always that a smaller size, respectfully saying, the smaller size in the county system might not over time be able to fulfil all aspects of what we now know of the county schedule. Do you think that there is any danger of it? And if so, if that danger has been exaggerated by what's happened this year?
Yeah.
Is red ball cricket still viable for counties like Leicestershire from 2021 onwards?
Yeah, it's a challenge. The red ball game is a challenge, is a financial challenge, because as we know, you'll have a 4-day game here, and we may get 500 people in to watch the match, and that becomes a financial strategy and difficulty for the club. So we have to be conscious of that. But at the end of the day, we do have a real appetite for 4-day cricket here at Leicestershire. So I think it's important that we do what we can to feed that machine at the very highest level of the game. We've got a strong cricket team for England, and it generates income into the game. So for us, it's important that on the level that we're at, is that we do support it and do what we can. I think for the clubs, they just have to be a bit more creative in their approach to try and generate income on the back of the 4-day game. What the answers are to that, I'm not sure yet. We're going to work. I'm on a steep learning curve with cricket, so I hope to bring some ideas to the party on what we can do and how we can develop it. But yeah, the T20 game is the cash cow, and being the most successful T20 side, it's important to us. But so is the 4-day game. You know, we believe in that, and our position as a cricket club is what we call the Academy of Cricket. And what I mean by that is we're a club that we want to develop talent. We want to attract individuals that are beginning their journey of cricket and that can come here and learn and develop and defy the odds and get into, if they may have been rejected by another county, is get into first class cricket and hopefully break through into the England squad in future. So for us, it's about developing that talent, and if that's 4-day, great. If that's the 1-day game, even better, no problem.
I mean, development is obviously a key part of Leicester's history, and it's always good to hear that there is an attitude like that. But how easy is it going to be? I mean, I've spoken to some chief executives who are thinking that there's every chance they might have to cut wage bills by 10 to 20% next year. And rather than actually giving people a pay cut, that might mean not bringing on as many people in 2021 on youth contracts or graduate contracts as they may previously have done. So how easy will it be for Leicestershire to give those chances to young people whilst recognising that it's got a squad already that it needs to keep in employ? It can't be an easy balance.
Yeah, it is a challenge. There's no doubt about that. We as a club will be in an element of transition as well. I would anticipate 1 or 2 of our players, their contracts will come to an end at the end of this year. We may lose 1 or 2 of our players to other counties if that happens. But I think, you know, for us, it is about attracting the right kind of talent to join the club. And I think we've got to unearth those people that are out there that we believe have got the potential, and there's plenty of them out there. So we can actually arguably use the COVID situation that maybe if some counties are releasing some of their lesser known players, that then we understand them, we believe they can fit into our model, and then we can develop them. So that isn't necessarily doing things on the cheap, but it's kind of identifying that talent, developing that talent, and getting real bang for our buck. You know, we are one of the smaller counties in cricket. There's no hiding from that, but we've got a great heritage. Our DNA is about developing some of the best cricketers, and you know, two of them I can spring to mind have been captains of England, and that's Stuart Broad and David Gower. So we've got good heritage in that, and we want to continue that. And so we have to use our knowledge, our decision-making processes in terms of our team to identify those players and bring those players into our structure. And with people like Ali Maiden, our academy director, ensure that we are attracting players at that level as well. You know, I'm very keen to identify players all around the UK that can come in, can fit in with our academy, can learn with our academy, and then actually move into the what's called the second 11, but I like to call it our elite development team, whereby they kind of then evolve and get into that first team. So our pathway is going to be strong, and that's important for us. And I think that will be a bit of our identity as a cricket club, I think.
We talk a bit about the process of setting up biosecure county cricket. Can you give an indication of how much it has cost to make the Fisher County Ground biosecure and to do the relevant testing? I mean, what does it cost a county?
Yeah, it's interesting. We're monitoring all the costs as we go along. We're still doing some bits and pieces now. So we have some signage to put up ready for that 8th of August. We have some bits and pieces around the room, the food, even the packaging around the food, things like that. So it's gonna add up into the tens of thousands without question. What that will be at the end of it, I'm not too sure, but we've kind of got a budget around between 50 and 100,000 to make sure we're secure. Stewarding, things like that are all additional. We've chatted to local residents about people coming to watch who are not allowed in, things like that. So we've got to be careful, and we've got to be conscious, things like, you know, all these issues, and each one kind of adds to the bottom line, you know, of how much it costs. So we are monitoring it. We're not there yet, but in answer to your question, I guess you're looking between 50 and 100,000 pounds.
Obviously an expense as well that you would never have previously been able to put into a budget. So you've got to find that from somewhere when you're having no income. It's got to be tough.
Dead right, and that's the thing, and that's something that we've had to deal with. You know, it's a case of health and safety to make the ground secure, and you know that is a cross we have to bear. So it's got to be done for us to play cricket, and yeah, it is a big cost for Leicestershire, but I would say that the support of the sponsors and the members has been phenomenal. Even today, I had a letter that came through to me, and somebody had donated 100 quid. So all those little donations are really, really useful and worth their weight in gold for the cricket club.
And will you be streaming your matches to members online, or to more than members? What's the plan for people to be able to watch Bob Willis T20 Blasting?
Sure, our plan is to stream it, and stream it free through YouTube. You know, one of the things that we really want to do is expand our fan base, develop our relationship and our engagement with the community. So for us as a club, we are very keen to make it as available as we can. I know some clubs are giving it to members only, doing it pay-per-view and things like that. But for us, I think it's about, well, do you know what? People have had a tough time over the COVID situation. If they want to watch cricket, let's make it available and ready for people to watch as best we can. So I think our streaming will be FOC.
And finally, you talked about it being a bit of a baptism of fire for you. You weren't formally the chief executive of this club until about 2 months into this crisis. Do you think that you've got your feet under the table yet? Do you think that you're settled? You're still learning as you go? Yeah,
Sam, it's a good question. It's a huge learning curve. And yes, there are things that my expertise of football can probably bring to the party, but there's still an awful lot to do here at Leicestershire. We have got some tremendous staff here, real committed staff, and it is being done on a shoestring budget, limited budget, so they're working extremely hard. You know, pay tribute to the ground staff and the commercial behind the scenes, those who are not furloughed. So they're doing kind of jobs of 4 or 5 people at the moment. But I think for us, this is the beginning of a new chapter. This is about us rediscovering who we are as a cricket club. This is about us using this opportunity to really look at root and branch of what we've done. There are still some areas of development, still some areas that cause us concern. But I think what we're seeing is that there's now an appetite and desire for us as a club to move forward. And me personally, I'm here to provide, I guess, a new energy, a new direction to the club. And already I would hope by law of osmosis, I can see the commercial manager, she's enjoying it. You know, we've got a couple of members of staff have come off furlough recently. They're enjoying it. So we're putting smiles on people's faces as well. You know, they may be wiped off when we get beat for our first or second game, but we're going to give it our best shot, and you never know. We are the challengers of cricket. We are not a fancy Dan brand of the biggest level. We're not a huge cricket club, but we've got tremendous heritage. And I think what we want to do is snap at the heels of those big boys and prove we can compete. And you know, we've done it in the past. We can do it again in the future. And you know, there is a new breed of foxes coming through this cricket club. And whilst the immediate term, the short term, may not give us the results that we want, I am certain over medium to long we'll begin to have a real cricket club that we can all be proud of here.